I heard it while standing in the kitchen, preparing dinner. The little voice, followed by a soft laugh. "Mama, if Uncle Jackson became my new dad instead of Daddy Nathan, would Daddy be mad?" I froze, knife halfway through a stalk of celery. Emily, my wife, laughed, her voice syrupy sweet. "Is that what you really want, honey?" My daughter answered without a hint of hesitation. "Uncle Jackson's more handsome than Daddy, and he buys me ice cream." I didn't walk out. I didn't make a scene. I just stood there like a man who'd just been punched in the chest. And from that moment on, I, Nathan Cole, 42 years old, head of cybersecurity engineering in Boston, went silent. No more arguments. No more "where were you" when she came home late. I stopped picking up our daughter from school, stopped replying to Emily's texts. That's when she began to panic. "Nathan, I was just joking with her. You don't have to act like this. If you don't believe me, I'll ask Jackson to quit." I looked her in the eyes and smirked. "No need. If it's real, you wouldn't stop just because of me." Emily didn't answer, maybe because she knew I already had everything I needed. A week ago, Jackson Ellis, my wife's personal assistant, sent me a friend request on iMessage. I assumed it was work-related. But what I received were hundreds of photos. Him and Emily, on hotel beds, in pools. One even showed them sleeping, completely naked, her arms still wrapped across his chest. In every single photo, her face showed something I hadn't seen in 7 years of marriage: tenderness. I didn't scream. I didn't smash my phone. I forwarded them all to my lawyer, Mr. George Baird, and scheduled a divorce filing. That same day, walking out of City Hall with the legal paperwork still in my hand, my phone pinged again. A photo from Jackson. Again. "Last week, Emily took me to Iceland," the message read. "We booked the honeymoon suite." I just laughed. It didn't hurt anymore. It was just a numb bruise. I forwarded it straight to George, then got in my car. The next day, Emily approached me with a soft face and light makeup. "Nathan, what's wrong? You didn't pick Ellie up yesterday. Her teacher called me, said she waited a long time." I answered coldly, "I forgot." That's when Ellie, my daughter, called from upstairs. "Mommy, I don't want Daddy picking me up anymore. I want Uncle Jackson to pick me up. My friends say he's super handsome." Emily's face went pale. "Ellie, who told you to say that?" The girl froze, then fell silent. Emily turned to me. "Nathan, I had an urgent meeting yesterday, so I asked Jackson to pick Ellie up. Please don't be mad." I nodded. "It's fine. Let him do it from now on. Better she gets used to her stepdad early." Emily stared at me like she couldn't believe what I'd just said. She grabbed my arm, her voice suddenly gentle. "Nathan, I'm sorry. I didn't think it would turn into this." "You're angry, aren't you?" I said nothing. She hugged me tightly. "Give me another chance. I'll end everything with Jackson." I looked down at her, met her eyes. She was still beautiful. Her soft chest pressed against mine, perfume gently drifting between us. And I smiled. I nodded. Behind that smile was something Emily would never suspect. I was going to end this, but on my terms. 2 days later, a strange parcel arrived at my office. No sender's name, just a plain printed label, just in case you ever doubt it. Inside was a black USB drive. I didn't plug it into any company device. I used my personal laptop. One single file. Room 428.mp4. It was a 47-minute video. No faces clearly visible, but the woman's figure, with light skin, golden brown hair, and a poppy tattoo below her right shoulder blade, was more than enough. I remembered clearly. I was the one who designed that tattoo for her on our first wedding anniversary. In the footage, she rode Jackson like she was tasting freedom for the first time in her life. But the part that made my blood run cold was the end. She turned directly to the camera, clearly knowing she was being filmed, and whispered, Happy now, baby? This woman wasn't seduced, wasn't tricked, wasn't weak. She was in control. She orchestrated everything. She betrayed with a smile. That night, Emily came home like nothing had happened. She wore a pearl-colored satin nightgown with a plunging neckline, almost fully revealing her chest. "Baby," she purred, "I just took a shower. Want me to give you a shoulder massage?" Her fingers scratched gently along the back of my neck. I replied, "Maybe tomorrow. I have a headache tonight." That was the first time I refused her body, and the first time I saw hesitation, guilt in her eyes. The next morning, Emily insisted on taking me to a charity auction, knowing full well I'd always dreamed of owning the ocean heart necklace that had been on display since last year. I didn't refuse. A silver-gray Bentley pulled up outside the auction center in Cambridge. She stepped out in a crimson bodycon dress, lipstick to match, eyes glowing like we were on a second honeymoon. As we exited the car, a familiar voice spoke behind us. "Director Emily, the seats you reserved are ready." I turned. Jackson Ellis, gray tailored suit, lips so tight they looked bloodless, nodded stiffly. "Why didn't you wait in the lobby?" Emily asked lightly, her voice like a spring drizzle. Jackson smiled. "Didn't want to miss a single second with you." I said nothing, just glanced at Emily. For a fleeting second, I saw her throat tense, her breath stumbled. She was shaken, but not because of me. We entered the hall. As the bidding began, Emily raised her paddle with no hesitation, outbidding everyone until she won the sapphire necklace for $120,000. When the gavel came down, she turned to me and smiled. "You said you liked it. I bought it for you." I squeezed her hand gently, nodded. "Thank you." Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, bit her lip, and smiled faintly. I tilted my head to see. A message glowed on her screen. "You said I'm your real husband last night. Still true today?" She replied without blinking, right in front of me. "Always. But today I need to play perfect wife. See you tonight." The blood in my veins went cold. I didn't react, just leaned forward like I was tired. Emily kept smiling, brushing her hand along my thigh under the table like nothing had happened. Outside the venue, she kissed my cheek. "Love, I'm heading back to the office. Got reports to sign." I nodded. She turned and walked away, heels clicking, confident as ever. The moment she disappeared through the glass doors, my phone pinged, again, from Jackson. A photo. His hand holding the ocean heart necklace, resting on Emily's thigh. Message. "She gave it to me 10 minutes ago in the parking lot. Hope you enjoy your version." I screenshot it, forwarded it to George. New evidence. Add it. I didn't feel heartbreak anymore. I felt clarity. If I used to live for love, now I lived to end this. Monday morning. Emily emerged from the bedroom wearing a pearl-white silk jumpsuit, hair neatly pinned up, lips curled into a honeyed smile like betrayal was just a forgotten dream. "Darling," she said, slipping a small gift bag into my hand, "I stopped by Cartier, picked out a watch for you. I know you love classic styles." I opened it. A Santos de Cartier, black alligator leather strap, silver dial. "Try it on." Emily leaned in close, her breath warm against my neck. I slid the watch onto my wrist and nodded slightly. "It's beautiful." "I knew it," she winked. "Jackson helped me choose. He's got good taste, doesn't he?" I nearly flinched, almost, but I kept my face still. The same smile, the same glint in her eye. Was she joking or baiting me? I looked up. "You still talk to him?" She chuckled. "Don't be dramatic, Nathan. Jackson's just an employee, a stylish one, that's all." I didn't respond, but under the table, my hand clenched tight. That night, I pretended to fall asleep early. Lights off. Emily thought I was already out cold. She tiptoed to the balcony with her phone in hand. I waited 2 minutes, then silently opened my iPad, connected to the home security system. Not because I didn't trust my wife, but because I'd trusted her too much. The balcony camera captured everything. Emily leaned against the railing, whispering into her phone. I turned on the audio. "He still has no idea. He even wore the watch you picked, like it was a gift from his loving wife." Jackson's voice replied on the other end. "Perfect. Are you close to wrapping up the asset split?" Emily licked her lips and smiled. "Almost. Just a week left before the papers are signed. You'll get the Tribeca apartment and the shares I promised. We're going to have everything." I closed the iPad, not because I couldn't handle it, but because I'd heard enough. She hadn't just betrayed me, she was planning to take everything from me. The next morning, I drove to George's office in Cambridge. "I want to amend the divorce filing," I said. George raised an eyebrow. "What are you asking for?" "Full custody of Ellie, and I'm keeping the Brookline house." I placed a thick folder on his desk. Photos, recordings, videos, compiled and bulletproof. George flipped through the pages, frowning. "How long have you been documenting this?" I smiled faintly. Just long enough for her to believe I stopped caring. George exhaled slowly. "We can build a case that overwhelmingly favors you, but are you sure? If you go for custody, it won't be a quiet battle." I was silent for a moment, then said, "She called someone else Dad, but she's still my daughter, and she deserves to know where the line is." 2 days later, Emily came home late again. She walked in, glowing, holding 2 takeaway cocktail cups. "Babe," she chimed, "Jessica and I went to the spa today. Took a while, but it was fun. I got you a mojito, fresh mint and all." I accepted the drink and looked at her calmly. "You had time for a spa day, but not for dinner with Ellie and me?" She winked. "Because I trust you to take better care of her than I ever could." In that moment, I saw it, smugness flickering behind her lashes. But what she didn't know was that I had already received a full breakdown of her credit card transactions from the private investigation team I hired. $12,400 at the Lenox Hotel every week. $6,300 at Tiffany & Co., the same necklace Jackson flaunted on Instagram. I forwarded everything to George with a simple note. "Send before court date. Make sure the press gets a leak." That night, I showered and walked into the living room to find Emily lounging in a towel, hair damp, legs draped over the couch like royalty. "Darling," she purred, "there's a shareholder conference at my company tomorrow. I think you should come. Let everyone see we're still the perfect family." I smiled, walked up and kissed her forehead. "Sure, there'll be a surprise." She didn't know it would be the day she lost everything. Not just her shares, not just her image, but every illusion she ever built. The next morning, I drove to George's office in Cambridge. "I want to amend the divorce filing," I said. George raised an eyebrow. "What are you asking for?" "Full custody of Ellie, and I'm keeping the Brookline house." I placed a thick folder on his desk. Photos, recordings, videos, compiled and bulletproof. I sat quietly among the guests, watching, until the door opened. A man in a black suit walked in, carrying a thick folder and a USB stick. I knew him. He was from the private investigation firm I'd hired. "Apologies for the interruption," he said calmly, turning to the board, "but I've been authorized to submit a formal complaint to the executive committee." He looked directly at Emily. "We have evidence that Miss Emily Hathaway has used company funds for personal expenses, as well as engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate, Mr. Jackson Ellis." The air froze. An elderly shareholder raised his glasses. "What the hell is going on?" Emily turned pale. Is this some kind of joke? The man opened his laptop, plugged in the USB. On the projector screen appeared photos. Emily and Jackson. In sleepwear, in bed, the Cartier watch and ocean heart necklace clearly visible. The Hathaway shares she'd flaunted so proudly were slipping through her fingers. Emily turned to me, her lips trembling. Nathan, did you do this? I leaned back in my chair, crossed my legs, and looked her dead in the eyes. No, you did all of it. I just scheduled the broadcast for prime time. She blinked. A single tear slid down her cheek, but I had nothing left to give that tear. A senior executive stood up. We motioned to suspend Miss Hathaway, pending internal investigation. Counsel, prepare termination documents and notify the press. Emily collapsed into her chair, lips pressed tight as if struggling to breathe. I stood, adjusted my collar, leaned in close and whispered, "Oh, I almost forgot. Divorce papers and custody claim were filed this morning. You'll get the delivery today." She turned, stunned, but I was already walking away. I didn't return to the old house. Instead, I drove straight to Ellie's school, parked outside just before dismissal, like I used to. She ran out, saw me, and froze. "Daddy?" I opened my arms. "Feel like getting waffles?" She sprinted into my chest, hugging me tightly. For the first time in weeks, I heard her whisper in my ear, tiny and warm, "I missed you, Daddy." I lifted her up, held her to my heart, and for the first time, I didn't feel hollow anymore. That evening, we ate waffles by the Charles River. She laughed like there was no such thing as Uncle Jackson. And I knew what I had lost, I was slowly reclaiming. I moved into a small studio apartment near Cambridge, 10 minutes from Ellie's school. It wasn't luxurious. No rooftop pool, no 24/7 concierge like the old estate in Brooklyn. But it was enough to start again. The place had a big window facing the river. Each morning I brewed coffee while Ellie sketched at the breakfast table. The peace was unfamiliar, but beautiful. Still, I knew one thing. This was just the opening act. Emily didn't know how to lose. She had never learned. 3 days after her downfall at Hathaway Industries, I got a call from George. "She's striking back," he said flatly. "Emily filed a countersuit. She's accusing you of manipulation, falsifying evidence, even coercing your daughter to inflict emotional damage." I laughed. "She thinks this is a soap opera?" George didn't laugh. "There's something worse." I frowned. "What?" "She's hired a PR firm. She's reshaping her image, posting articles, interviews, portraying herself as a heartbroken mother betrayed by a cold, controlling husband." I leaned back, silent. An hour later, I scrolled through Instagram. There it was, a photo of Emily hugging Ellie in a park, captioned, "He took everything, but not my daughter." It was staged, but the reaction was real. Thousands of shares, comments, praise. People calling her a survivor. I clenched my phone, not out of fear, but fury. Fury at myself for once believing this woman could love. That night, I video called Ellie. "Daddy, Mommy said you're going to leave me," she said. My heart dropped. "No, sweetheart, never. I just need a little more time to clean up some grown-up stuff. Then I'll bring you home, okay?" She nodded, but her eyes were glassy with tears. After the call, I reached out to the only person I'd ever called a true friend, and the only one I'd cut off without explanation. Kyle, lawyer, college classmate, the man who stood beside me the day I married Emily. "Meet me tonight," I said, "the Oak Room." Kyle showed up in a wrinkled suit and crooked tie, but with the same razor-sharp about Emily, Jackson, Ellie, and the lies flooding the media. When I finished, Kyle leaned forward. "You're making one mistake. You think this is a legal battle. It's not. No," he said quietly. "This is a media war, and I know someone who can help. 2 days later, I sat across from Marlene, a middle-aged crisis communications expert, former media director for a Fortune 100 firm, now a freelance operator who handled scandals for the rich, the desperate, and the unjustly accused. "She's controlling the story," Marlene said plainly, "so the first thing we're going to do is take the mic back." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean?" "We don't attack Emily. We just tell the truth, but we do it in a way that hurts like a lie." I stared at her. Marlene locked eyes. "You'll need to appear, on camera, on podcasts, on the stand." I nodded. "I've already lost everything. My career, my house, my daughter. I have nothing left to lose." She smiled thinly. "Wrong. You've got one thing left. Your comeback. I'm going to help you keep it." That night, a simple video went up on TikTok. No branding, no filter, just a man sitting in front of a camera, speaking in a steady voice. "My name is Nathan Cole. I'm not perfect, but I never betrayed my family. This is the truth, not from the media, not from a lawyer, but from a father who once loved blindly and now will fight to show his daughter what real love looks like." 58 seconds. No edits, no effects. Within 2 hours, it hit 1 million views. Emily called that same night, not to apologize, to threaten. "You're taking this too far," I replied. "I'm not pushing anything. You were the one who stepped over the line." The divorce hearing was scheduled for an early autumn morning. Cold Boston wind swept through the corridors of Suffolk County Court, making even veteran attorneys clutch their collars tighter. But I didn't feel cold. I felt ready. Ellie wasn't there. I'd asked Kyle to make arrangements. She'd spend the day at a friend's house, far from the testimonies, audio clips, and flashing media cameras. Emily arrived 7 minutes late. She wore a long black dress, oversized sunglasses hiding half her face, and clung to Jackson's arm like they were attending a movie premiere instead of a custody battle. They sat across from me, hands entwined. Jackson whispered something that made her smile. Smile. In a divorce hearing, while fighting for custody, for a house, and she smiled. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, called us to order. George, my lawyer, stood first, his tone steady. "Your Honor, we present clear evidence of adultery, breach of marital contract, and emotional manipulation involving the child." Screens lit up, with text messages, photos, spending logs, one by one, every piece of betrayal laid bare. Jackson fidgeted in his seat. Emily gripped her handbag like she meant to snap it in half. Then it was their turn. Emily's attorney repeated a rehearsed narrative. "My client was emotionally manipulated, living under subtle coercion. Any infidelity, if present, was a cry for help after prolonged neglect. I didn't flinch. I just waited for my turn. When asked to testify, I stood. My voice didn't shake. I'm not perfect," I began. "I've failed emotionally at times, but I never cheated, never messaged anyone late at night, never slept with an assistant, and I sure as hell never let my daughter call someone else dad while I was still alive." I turned to Emily. "I don't want an apology. I just want this court to understand I'm not the one who destroyed our home." The room fell silent. Even Jackson looked down. An hour later, the verdict came. Nathan Cole is granted full custody of Ellie. The Brookline home remains in his name. Emily Hathaway is fined for breaching the fidelity clause in the prenuptial agreement. She forfeits 40% of her remaining shares in Hathaway Enterprises, now under independent review. I didn't smile. I simply placed my hands together, closed my eyes for a second, and thanked the version of me that didn't give up. Outside the courtroom, media exploded. Hashtag Justice for Nathan trended on Twitter for 2 straight days. A podcast interview with me and Marlene hit nearly 6 million streams. But the only thing I cared about was Ellie. One Friday afternoon, she sat on the windowsill hugging a pillow with a robot drawing. I brushed her hair gently. "Want to do something this weekend?" I asked. Her eyes lit up. "Let's go to Colorado. They have early snow already." I laughed. "Colorado's freezing, you know." She hugged me tighter. "Not if you're with me, Daddy." A few weeks later, Ellie and I moved to a quiet town just outside Boulder, Colorado. A small wooden house with a wide porch and pine-scented floors.